How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Greetings, welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the nation. I almost didn't make it back in time from the restroom. Not because I was stuck at the restroom, but because I forgot the office door was locked. Locked myself out of my own office in the middle of my show. That would make headlines, wouldn't it? Well, welcome. It's Open Line Friday, 877-973-7425. I do want to spend some time with phone calls here. I've got Adam Morgan, the state house member from South Carolina, who went viral last week online. Turns out he's a listener, and he represents Greenville, South Carolina. One of my affiliates wanted to get him on here because, I mean, everybody, all of my friends around the country in the conservative movement were circulating this clip last week that I played in the last hour. Now, I do want to respond to a comment real quick because a listener just tweeted at me that their account is Downrange Ammo. I got to go check them out. Premium Ammunition, veteran owned and operated. Yes, please. I need to know you. But tweeted stating you have the cash and the lawyer stating they can't secure a bond are two different things. No insurance company is going to write a bond for that amount. You're right. This is about Donald Trump, and his lawyer said he doesn't have he can't get a bond. New York requires that you post a bond in order to appeal a case in a civil lawsuit. And the lawyers can't get a bond. You can't get a bond because the bondholders can't get insurance. And this is their situation here. The amount of money, $454 million, means only 3 companies on planet Earth, there's Lloyd's of London and 2 others, could do this, but no insurance company is going to write a bond for that amount. And I know for a fact, guaranteed certainty, one of the companies says they're not helping him because he's Donald Trump. That reduces it. And so the lawyers went to court and said they can't. So Donald Trump goes online and says, I've got $500 million in cash I'm going to use on my campaign for president. So here's the problem, Downrange Ammo, if you're listening, is under that New York law, you got 2 options. You either put the cash in a trust account and hold it there in a trust account, or you file the bond. You can do one or the two. He can't file the bond, and the lawyer's original complaint was he can't put money in the trust account either because his assets are illiquid assets. So illiquid assets are not assets that are readily convertible to cash, and that is real property. Real property is not a liquid asset. You've got to sell it. Arm's length transaction takes time. You can't immediately get your hands on it. And his lawyer's argument was that his assets are illiquid, so he can't put money into the trust, and he can't get a bond because of the amount of money. So for Donald Trump to get online this morning and say, I got $500 million in cash, I'm ready to go for my campaign, well, that guts the second exception. It completely guts it. He's saying he's got $500 million in cash, so he can put $454 million of it in a trust account, so he no longer has to worry about the bond, so he can appeal. It just completely undermines his argument to say he's got that in cash when the lawyers were like, yes, he's got $500 million, but they're illiquid assets they would take time to get by divesting properties. Oh, my gosh. I feel so bad for Trump's lawyers. Just constantly undermines them. All right. Let us go to the phones. First of all, let's go to David calling from Dayton, Ohio. Welcome to the show. How are you? David, you there? David?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Welcome to the show, David.
Okay, good. I just wanted to get off my Bluetooth so you could hear me a little bit better.
God bless you. People be like David. Get off Bluetooth.
Eric, did you used to sit in for Rush Limbaugh occasionally back in the day?
Yeah, I did. Yep, sure did.
And that's where I first heard you, and I'm glad to see that you're on the radio stations I listen to. Now, I listen to WHIO out of Dayton, Ohio, and I get into Cincy quite a bit. Kind of a road warrior guy out here, so I get to listen to your show a lot.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I just wanted to comment on you talked about political malpractice yesterday, which I thought was very interesting about Joe Biden. You gave some reasons, and to be honest with you, I forget some of the specifics why you feel that the Bidens think, well, we got this made. We don't have to worry. We can do whatever we want. And I think that's the way they operated last year. And then we saw what happened in the election.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this year the fix is even in more because they just imported about 8 million new voters and dispersed them all over the country. Especially in blue cities that will give them, they won't verify who they are. They'll give them drivers. You've been following this, so that's kind of my point that this may. Yeah,
they'll get the driver's licenses, but you know what's so funny that I think a lot of people misunderstand on these situations, and is that New York and Delaware, for example, actually it's harder to register to vote in those states than it is Georgia, where Stacey Abrams claimed it was voter suppression. So they do motor voter legislation there, but they don't do it as expansively as some of the southern states do. And they also limit the number of days for absentee balloting and early voting, much more draconian limits in those states, which is kind of funny. I suspect we're going to try to see some of these people vote in the country. And, there is this movement of Democrats around the country to allow non-citizen voting in municipal elections. But if the Trump team is on their A game with lawyers this time, they've got to be prepared for it this time. You're allowed to audit the voter registration rolls and try to find these people. They're going to need their A game. In fact, I got to make a recommendation because I used to be a member of the organization. There's a great organization out there. If you're a lawyer, if you're a Republican and you're a lawyer, the National Republican Lawyers Association, the NRLA, I was a member when I practiced law. That organization, I guarantee you, could use you. The National Republican Lawyers Association, the NRLA, and they will train you between now and the election to be an elections lawyer at the basic level, to be able to learn the laws in your state for challenging voter registration, for challenging ballot access. Every Republican lawyer in the nation should join the National Republican Lawyers Association. And those of you interested in election law, I wanted to do election law as a lawyer. I was the only lawyer anyone in my law school had ever heard of who wanted to do election law. And I joined the NRLA. I went to their workshops. They did continuing legal education programs on election law, and I became an elections lawyer. And they were an invaluable resource. And I cannot emphasize to you enough, if you are a Republican and you are a lawyer and you're interested in preserving the integrity of an election, the National Republican Lawyers Association, you need to look them up in your area. They got chapters all over the country. You should be involved with them. Ken, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hello?
Hi there.
Hey, man. Oh, man, I'm so honored to talk to you. This is, I tell you, I'm one of your many black listeners, and I just want to thank you for taking my call.
Well, thank you so much. So what's going on?
Well, one thing I was excited that day you talked about censorship. And the progressives, they always do these word games. Undocumented, it used to be illegal. Homeless, now they're unhoused. So they keep playing these word games. You can't rewrite history. Mm-hmm. And also, I wanted to mention that the Democratic National Convention is going to be in Chicago, and the people in Chicago are really fed up. And it's going to probably be some mess. I mean, it's crime ridden.
It's what happens when the Democrats have a convention in Chicago. They always riot in Chicago.
I mean, every other weekend, man. If you were to look it up on the internet and say how many people were shot in Chicago, it's going to be well in the double digits.
Right.
And I mean, they're putting these people that's coming to the country in houses and homes, and they had it up to here. And like I said, I've never liked President Biden. He called me a super predator back in the 90s. I never liked him, didn't vote for him, and I'm not voting for him again. And so I just wanted to thank you, man, for all.
Well, so now, Ken, I got a question for you because you mentioned their word games. What do you think the awkward moral position will be for the progressives. If the Attorney General in New York does take Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump would be unhoused, and he could be the first unhoused president of the United States. I wonder if the wokes would feel like they got to vote for him to champion the rights of the unhoused.
Well, this is what they don't realize, that we actually see what they're doing to Donald Trump, that it's very unfair. I mean, when you think about just the case here with the DA, I mean, how are you going to have a boyfriend and you're not going to benefit from the boyfriend? That doesn't make sense to me. Then on top of that, you're going to pay him $100 more than the going rate. So, I mean, we see what's going on. We really see. And like you said, if you take away COVID out of the Trump presidency, his presidency was pretty good. It was damn good. My friends, all of us had jobs.
Right. Yep, you're right. Look, it's a remarkable
last thing
record.
that I want to mention, why don't we just go ahead and annex Haiti?
I'm sorry, say that again?
I said, I'm all for it. Why don't we just go ahead and do the annexation of Haiti? Annex it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the last time they were stable, it was filled with U.S. Marines. Maybe we need to go back again. By the way, my buddy Ben says, dude, don't you mean the Republican National Organization, not the National Republican? Yes, I'm sorry, people. It is RNLA, and the website is rnla.org. The Republican National Lawyers Association. It's not the National Republican Lawyers Association. It's the Republican National Lawyers Association. RNLA.org is the website. They've got a directory of the states that they're in. Y'all, if you're a Republican lawyer and you're really concerned about the integrity of the election, join the RNLA, rnla.org. Not an ad for them. I just used to be a member. It's where I learned a lot about election law when I was an election lawyer. Rick in Dayton, Ohio, you're going to be up next.
Yeah,
Welcome.
I had a cord in 2 weeks.
Rick, you there?
Oh, you don't have one there?
Uh-oh. Well, Rick, call me back after your your drive-through order's taken. Isn't that always awkward? You go to somebody and they're in the middle of the drive-through order. You're more than welcome to call me back, Rick, from Dayton. It's good to hear from people from Dayton, Ohio. All right, listen. I'm going to go on and step out. I'm going to take a break. We got to talk about more stuff when we come back, including the car ban. The Biden administration has put forward the regulations. They're out now. They intend to ban your vehicle unless it's electric. And they say they're not, but they actually are. And there's some hilarious audio about this. So Nate, by the way, just texted says they can't take Mar-a-Lago. Florida has unlimited homestead exemption. I actually made that point earlier in the show. I was just joking about what if he did become unhoused. But yeah, don't worry. I've seen a bunch of people say, oh my gosh, they're going to take Mar-a-Lago. What's he going to do? They're not going to take Mar-a-Lago. You can't take Mar-a-Lago because of Florida's unlimited homestead exemption. It would become a massive court fight in Florida, which the Attorney General in New York would lose because that's considered now Donald Trump's primary residence. Hello there. It is Eric Erickson here at the bottom of the hour. I got Adam Morgan joining me. Right now, I want to go back to Rick. Rick, sorry, I disconnected the call earlier. It sounded like you were ordering something and couldn't hear me. I'm glad you called back.
Well, thank you, Eric. I appreciate that.
So what's going on?
No, I just had a question. I mean, I'm a business owner in Ohio, and, it just kind of gets exciting when we do all this stuff with Trump. And I'm like, well, if we were just Democrats, we have George Soros or somebody else to help us out with these problems. Maybe reach out to Elon Musk or somebody that believes in the Constitution to help Donald Trump out on some of this small stuff.
It's funny you say this because there's all this media speculation that what if a foreign government covered Trump's money for he would be on the take from maybe Vladimir Putin would. I'm kind of actually surprised some billionaire somewhere on the right hasn't done this so that Trump is beholden to the guy if he gets elected president. Of course, the media would have some big hoo-ha over it, but I honestly believe that everybody just assumes Trump's going to come up with the money for it to make this appeal.
I don't think beholden is the right word. I think beholden maybe to the United States would be a place to be beholden to. I mean, that's how I feel. I mean, I own a couple of businesses. I do some stuff, and I'm all about trying to make stuff work for the right reasons.
Right.
I don't really feel like I can tell you the people that don't treat me well, and I can tell you that do treat me well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really feel like I don't make my decisions on who helped somebody out. I mean, I went to the bank last week to get a loan. They gave me X amount of dollars for a business venture. I'm not beholden to them, except
Right.
I make payments.
Yeah, at the
to
same time, though, you know how some of these rich guys are is they view everything transactionally between each other, and I think so. You got to have somebody out there thinking, I could give him the money, and I would be like he would be in my pocket. I mean, it's you got to think there's some billionaire out there thinking that who hasn't done it. Now, I personally think a couple of things here. One. That either Trump can come up with the money or he can waive the bond, so there's no need for someone to cough up the money. And then two, some of these guys out there, the billionaires, like they're billionaires because they didn't do stuff like that. They're as wealthy as they are because they didn't lend money. And there are a number of the billionaire class on the GOP side. In fact, I'm supposed to have a meeting with some of them in a few weeks, and they're not giving me money. I wish they would give me some money too. I got a beach house I want, but they're focused on spending money to save the Senate and the House. They want to grow the House, they want to gain the Senate, and that's where they're spending all of their money. They're not going. If they give Donald Trump $459 million in order to cover his bond fee, that's $459 million they can't spend to take the House and the Senate. And there are very few people who have access to that amount of money anyway. A lot of it is illiquid. It's Donald Trump's situation as well. They would have to sell vast amounts of property, and that would take time. Or they would have to sell massive amounts of stock, which would cost them controlling interest in their companies. So they don't want to do that. That's a lot of the reason why. And they want to save the House. They want to take the Senate. Their money's better spent there anyway. Trump can come up with the money somehow or another. Now, I want to save you some money with Stamps.com. Y'all, I've used this business for so long. They've been around for 25 years, and I remember signing up with them 20 years ago when I was leaving my law firm, and we used to have one of those Pitney Bowes mail machines. It's like, what am I going to do for sending all my legal stuff? I don't have to keep going to the post office and buying stamps. So I signed up for Stamps.com. I've been with them ever since, on and off. And that's the great thing about it is you don't have to sign a long-term commitment. You go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone, put in Eric, E-R-I-C-K, and you can start your relationship with them. They'll even send you some free postage and a free digital scale right now. And you begin your relationship with Stamps.com. It's kind of a no-brainer if you ship a lot of packages individually or as a business. Use Stamps.com. You can even order supplies from them. All you need is a computer or a mobile device and a printer. You can print your labels, and then you can arrange pickup at your home or office. So you don't have to go to the post office or the UPS store again. You get up to 89% off UPS and post office rates. You can ship based on the cheapest option or the fastest option. It's phenomenal win for you. Stamps.com, click the microphone, put in Eric, start shipping and saving today with Stamps.com. Welcome back. Nationwide, it's Eric Erickson here across the fruited plain. The phone number, 877-973-7425. I played you some of this audio earlier from State Representative Adam Morgan in South Carolina. If I can push the button without it going crazy on my computer. Had this wild exchange on the floor of the State House in South Carolina, and it went so viral. Friends of mine in California who are conservatives were sending me the clip saying, have you seen this guy? Have you seen this guy? He's running for Congress. He's in the state legislature in South Carolina. Let me play you part of this exchange. Let's see. Now, of course, my computer, y'all, this is my computer. It has nothing to do with anybody else other than the gerbils in my computer are running wild.
Is for me to not even vote red on the board. Y'all might not know this. A dark money entity that was created on Tuesday, the day after we voted for this, I went home and a attack piece went out in my whole district about the fact that I voted for this. I get that the people in Columbia, that the lobby wants me to either not vote or to vote green on this, but my constituents want me to vote red, and they want their tax money spent on core government functions.
Amen. And so this Democrat says, wait, Wait, you actually think you should listen to your constituents and not the bureaucrats in Columbia, South Carolina? So, joining me to discuss this viral video is the man himself, South Carolina State Representative Adam Morgan. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Eric. Great. Thanks for having me on.
All right. So, I'm going to bypass all of this first because I gotta question your sanity for a minute. You got 3 kids under the age of 5 at home. What do you have against sleep?
Yeah, I have 3 under 6. We finally have a 6-year-old, so I feel like we're getting a little older now and maybe a little more sanity, and we do have a newborn. And, it is a terrible time to run for Congress, a terrible time to serve in the General Assembly in South Carolina. But at the same time, I got 3 little kids, and the future that we build for them and the values and institutions we conserve for them are what they'll inherit and will be the world that they in the country they get from us. So I got a lot at stake, so a lot to fight for.
Yeah, you do. And so now you should know. So the highest I ever got in office was I got elected to a city council. Worst job ever. There's this thing called a constituent, and they're just very needy. But I listened to them. And I was the guy who was like, I was willing to privatize our police force because of the time it had so many problems and have all these people upset with me. It's like I was elected by the people in my area, and my job is to listen to them, not to listen to other people. And I was honestly surprised that a Democratic member of the House would be so brazen as to say, wait a second, you really think your job's to listen to your constituents and not the bureaucrats at the Commerce Department? It was wild.
I mean, I was floored. And like his exact quote was, you're telling me we should listen to the folks back home who, in your district over the experts in the Commerce Department who have done all these mega deals and maneuvered in the private sector. And I just, you could hear in the clip, I was just like, dude, yes, you should absolutely represent the folks back home, the people, your constituents who sent you and elected you to be their voice. You should absolutely listen to them over unelected bureaucrats, over multi-billion-dollar corporations and lobbyists who spend millions of dollars, sending these guys to tell us how to basically stab our constituents in the back and spend their tax money on things they don't want us to spend on. I mean, the deal we were talking about was a $1.3 billion taxpayer handout to a company to make electric vehicles in South Carolina, which is all propped up by the Biden subsidies. The company was going to come in and force everybody to be ESG compliant. And it was just altering our culture in South Carolina on the taxpayer dime. And every single person who reached out to me, about 60 or so emails and text messages and calls, said, vote no. And all I did was have, the gall to go up to the well and say, I'm voting no on this because my constituents think it's a bad use of our money when our roads in South Carolina are pretty miserable, our schools are failing, and we don't have enough beds for kids in the foster care system. So I would rather spend all this money on that than on, messing with the private sector and playing crony capitalism and bringing socialism into, let the government plan what jobs should be where and how our tax money should be used in the private sector. I know that's shocking to some people.
This is one of the things, and Republicans in Georgia, where I am, for years did this as well. So I remember back, God bless him, I realize he had lots of flaws, but I remember when Mark Sanford was your governor years ago and killed something saying essentially that South Carolina should be just job-friendly, business-friendly, tax-friendly so people come as opposed to giving them handouts. And yet everybody kind of ignored it even then. And in Georgia, it was the same way with me that in our legislature, that let's give massive deals to out-of-state companies to come into our state, putting our businesses at a competitive disadvantage by giving the out-of-state guy the massive tax breaks, never mind what they do to the culture and the economy, as opposed to let's just have a business-friendly environment that naturally attracts businesses to our state.
I mean, it is literally, that's what conservatism is. That's what our Republican Party platform says. We reject corporate welfare and crony capitalism. And yet you have Republicans, quote unquote, who want to be able to say that they created jobs by using this tax money. The problem is the government doesn't create jobs. Every Republican should know that. Like when we give a tax subsidy or a handout to these companies, we took that tax money from somebody. We took it from the families and other businesses, and like you said, then give this other company a competitive advantage. And it's literally socialism. It's trying to plan and maneuver and manage the private sector, and that's not the role of government. And it's crazy that was so scandalous to Republicans and Democrats in the Uniparty in South Carolina, who they were all the ones supporting it. They had they thought it was a great use of tax money, even despite the fact that it was electric vehicles. And they couldn't even handle somebody voicing an opposing opinion, so much so that they spent literally thousands of dollars sending attack ads in every single member who voted no, saying that we were killing jobs. Pictures of us with AOC and saying that we were anti, jobs. And and that's what we're facing really at all levels of government. Mm-hmm. You have this stranglehold of unelected bureaucrats and of lobbyists who throw millions of dollars in campaign contributions around, and they control your elected officials. And when we have a void, when the people's voice, there's a void of that interaction and pressure from the constituents, that void is filled by moneyed special interests. And we have to elect people who are willing to stand up to it and take those attack ads and just keep on pressing and getting the message out there and fighting the good fight, because most of them cave.
So often they do, and it's remarkably disrespectful, I think, as a taxpayer, for my legislator to say, I'm going to ignore your concerns because, well, the bureaucrats know best. I get we hire experts, and those experts can do the macroeconomic analysis, and they can come up with an opinion, but at the end of the day, you're my representative. You're not the bureaucrats' representative. Listen to me, not them.
Yeah, I mean, he literally said they were too stupid. The folks back home were too stupid to understand how these quote-unquote mega deals are done. And I just categorically reject that. They're like the people, the common sense wisdom of the people we represent, that's who I'm going to listen to every time over some unelected bureaucrat or some paid lobbyist who is trying to use state taxpayer to get tax money and benefit their company. I mean, and you made a good point. They've done extensive studies that show that no matter what kind of incentives you give to these companies, it has next to no impact on the decision of where these companies locate. You know what they decide it based on? Right to work, business climate, infrastructure, ports and railways that they need to use.
Education pass rates,
the tax. Yes, and like workforce. That's what they're making the decision on. So why don't we just focus on those things that are actually core government functions like infrastructure and keeping taxes low and, all the conservative values we believe in. And that's what's motivating me to run for Congress. I think we need more conservatives to step up to these higher offices and use the platforms to just literally speak common sense conservative values. I represent Greenville-Spartanburg, or Greenville right now, and I'll be representing the whole Greenville-Spartanburg area, which your radio show broadcasts into, Eric.
Yes.
And I'm all in. I recognize this viral video was amazing because people got to see me and hear me, but also all the lobbied special interests got to see me and hear me and are now like, absolutely not that guy. So, I'm going to have a lot of money thrown against me, but people from across the country have been checking me out and donating and supporting. If anyone listening is interested, it's voteadammorgan.com. You can find out more about me. And I want to be the people's voice.
So I got to say as well, because a number of friends of mine are supporting you. You got Scott Perry and Bob Good, Mary Miller, Andy Harris, Ralph Norman, Dan Bishop, Andrew Clyde, Josh Breachin. I mean, really just quality Freedom Caucus members in the U.S. House have come to stand with you. And I guarantee you, if you're listening and you heard those names, it means that there are a lot of people coming to get you because those guys are supporting you.
Yeah, and I think the truth is people can hear that clip and they can hear me talk and they realize, oh, he means business and he's serious. And, I'm chair of the Freedom Caucus in South Carolina. We formed with 13 members and we've grown it. And, we've fought and won on so many issues. I mean, we shut down a fully taxpayer-funded pediatric transgender clinic where they were literally using state money to transition children 4 years old to 16. And we went after them when nobody else would, and we shut it down. And we actually sued rogue school districts that were breaking state law teaching CRT. One of the ladies was caught on camera saying, I'm here to find co-conspirators to break state law and teach this stuff under different names. and nobody else would deal with it. So we sued the school districts and got those programs removed. Our caucus did. I mean, so, when I fight, we generally win. And I think that a lot of people get worried about that in the establishment because they're used to politicians they can control and they can, pat on the head and say, well, just pick your battles and don't fight. But when it's something that matters to me and it's something that matters to my constituents, I'm going to be loud and proud, and I'm going to, fight for every inch of the country I love and for the values that I deeply hold and believe. I mean, I know they're rooted in truth, so I'm going to fight for them.
Well, listen, I appreciate you taking time coming on the show. Can you get your website one more time? Yes,
voteadammorgan.com, and I'm running on June 11th in the Republican primary in Greenville, Spartanburg, and would love to serve and continue being the voice of the people and fighting for conservative values.
Well, listen, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you guys reaching out because, the clip went viral. It's like, surely you're given where you're located, you're in the listening audience and with WORD. So I'm glad you guys took the initiative to reach out as well. And best of luck to you on the campaign trail. Really, really do mean it. And good luck to you. Hope you make it through, Adam. And thank you for stopping by the show.
Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Adam Morgan, state representative of South Carolina, looking to run for Congress. Y'all, they are coming out to get the guy, by the way, because of the speech. The establishment guys are pouring money into opposing him after this because he literally defied Republicans in the state legislature that wanted to do a massive tax package to an electric vehicle plant in South Carolina, and he stood up and not only voted no, but had that Democrat say on the floor of the House, you mean you think you should listen to your constituents instead of the Commerce Department? Wow. He couldn't ask for better publicity, but that's put a target on his back as well. His name's Adam Morgan in the Greenville-Spartanburg area in South Carolina, would be a great conservative to have in the U.S. Congress with the Freedom Caucus there. Now, I got to tell you guys about Hillsdale College. Speaking of great conservatives, great college. Hillsdale College, if you go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com, you can start a relationship with them, but not only can you start a relationship with them, you can get a course from Victor Davis Hanson on citizenship, the acclaimed historian Victor Davis Hanson. That Victor Davis Hanson. I'm total fanboy for him, by the way. I've been reading him for years at National Review and beyond. Really a great guy, great scholar, and Hillsdale has partnered with him for this. It's a series of lectures you can take at your own pace, share it with your family and friends. ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K. More than that, though, once you get started with Hillsdale College, you'll find out they have vastly more opportunities to engage with them than that. Great classes on C.S. Lewis, on the Constitution, this one on the decline of citizenship and its revitalization, its meaning with Victor Davis Hanson. So much. I love Hillsdale College. You will too. Eric, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. Go check them out today. Start your relationship and maybe over time induce your kids to go to Hillsdale and get a great conservative college education. ericforhillsdale.com. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number, this open line Friday, 877-973-7425. Got to play you this audio. This is from CNN, from Harry Itten on their polling over what we are seeing in the country with Biden.
So let's break this down by race, right? Let's look at voters of color, look at white voters. And what we see here is back in 2020, according to the exit poll, Joe Biden won voters of color in Michigan by 62 points. Look at that advantage today. It has been sliced by a third, only 21 points. That's Joe Biden's lead over Donald Trump among voters of color. Among white voters, Donald Trump has gained a little bit of steam as well. It was 11 points in 2020. His margin over Joe Biden right now is 16 points. But this decline in support for Joe Biden among voters of color in Michigan is something we've been seeing in state after state after state, and nationally as well, where he's got some big problems. This is a historic low amount of support for a Democratic presidential candidate among voters of color, and it seems to be happening across the board, Kate. Historic
loss of support among non-white voters for Joe Biden. And you should understand that the 2020 number was based on exit polling. The exit polling is pretty accurate. The exit polling is based on the people who actually voted. The surveys in real time, both on election day and of people who cast early ballots. They seek them out, get their permission, they interview them. The exit polling in this country is actually really good. You can say the opinion polls are off. Exit polls are pretty precise. And just based on the current CNN polling, which has kind of been off a little bit, to be honest with you, but not that far off. But still, there is a noticeable shift. And this is what I think so many people forget. And this is the most important point. If you only take home one point on the entire show today, other than Adam Morgan is awesome, is the election's going to come down to about 40,000 votes, more likely than not. Those 40,000 votes will be spread between 6 swing states that make up the Electoral College. Forget the millions of extra votes. It's the swing state votes that matter. For the Electoral College, there will be about 40 to 50,000 votes that matter. If Donald Trump picks up just 0.7% shift in the Hispanic vote in this country, that's about 50,000 voters. If he picks up a less than a percentage point shift in black voters, and it looks like the polling suggests he's got much more than that. We're not talking now about a 50,000 vote margin. We're talking 100, 150, 200,000 vote margin and a majority of the popular vote for Donald Trump. The Democrats have got to be freaked out about this, but the Democrats, I think they've really thought, well, no one's actually going to vote for him when they go to the polls. That's a big mistake. When you see the national polling trends showing that people's views of the Trump administration are improving, that's a real big mistake on the Democrats' part. They keep falling for it because of their arrogance. They keep falling for it for their arrogance.